Hello, I'm Marlis Arnold, trade show marketing consultant and author of the book, Build a Better Trade Show Image. Welcome to the Trade Show Insights podcast with news, tips, and tools to expand your knowledge of exhibiting. Today we're wrapping up our two-part series on Trade Shows 2.0. Last time, we covered Web 2.0 technology tools for both exhibitors and shows. In this episode, we'll talk about how some groups are reinventing the traditional trade show format, both online and offline. When you think about interactive technology for trade shows, perhaps one of the most obvious technologies is virtual trade shows. There's been a lot of buzz about it. They aren't exactly new. They've been around for quite a while, but they're just finally starting to gain some traction. More and more shows are beginning to see the value of having a year-round virtual supplement to their physical show. Now notice I say supplement a physical show. That's because I don't think that virtual shows would ever or should ever totally replace the physical shows. There's just something about that face-to-face interaction where you can really meet and talk with a client, learn about their needs, and educate them on how you can help them. But these virtual shows can be a good supplement. They range from anywhere from static exhibitor listings to full-fledged virtual sites that are similar to Second Life, which we talked about last time. For some examples, visit the show notes, and I've got some links in there to read about some case studies and also look at a virtual events checklist. Two of the leading producers of these types of shows include iCongo and Unisphere. So I've also got links to their website so you can go learn more about it. And I haven't really participated in a lot of these shows, but the ones that I've been to, they look great. I mean, very slick with all the great graphics, and it really looks like you're walking around a convention center, and there's even little animated people and that kind of stuff. They have the online booths where visitors can go check out information about the exhibitor, and usually you can download materials, which are PDFs or maybe flash or video demonstrations, links to their website, that kind of thing. They also usually have some webinars or what they might just call online sessions in an auditorium where you can go and listen in to a webinar with the slides and the audio. And a lot of times they'll have what they call a lounge where you can just go and chat with other attendees. And interestingly enough, back to that whole concept of the face-to-face contact, oftentimes the lounge is where you see the majority of the activity instead of in the actual show floor itself. In addition to virtual technology, there are lots of other interactive tools popping up in conjunction with physical shows. Probably the most popular right now is the software that allows for networking prior to a show, which is kind of similar to LinkedIn or Facebook, which we talked about last time. These tools provide the ability to connect exhibitors and attendees prior to the show, kind of like your own social networking application. The attendees can make appointments in advance, they can view information about the exhibitors, maybe even download some information, so kind of almost verging on the edge of a virtual show. But some of the software goes so far as to allow the attendees to connect with each other, which I think is really cool because, maybe there's another attendee out there that's looking for the same kind of thing that I am, or, maybe there's an attendee out there that can help me find a solution to what I'm looking for, that kind of thing. So I think, looking forward, I think that's going to be a very valuable tool. Two companies that are providing this service include Event Mingle and BD Metrics. And again, you'll find links to both of those companies in the show notes at imagespecialist.com/tradeshowinsights. A third type of online tool, which is also provided by BD Metrics, is Trade Show TV. Now, this is similar to having your own YouTube network for your show. It's kind of like a virtual newscast. You have a company-branded anchor desk, a professional anchor, and they read or share stories about your show. They might interview people either ahead of time or at the show. All kinds of little news stories, just like you would see on an evening newscast. Pack Expo is one of the first shows to participate in the Trade Show TV channel. So again, there's a link to their website in the show notes so you can go and check out Pack Expo TV. Now, a variation to this idea of trade show television is streaming webcasts from the show floor. Now, probably the most famous one of these is Steve Jobs' broadcast live from the floor of Macworld Expo. I mean, people tune in and listen to that from around the world every year. It's become like a big event. But it also makes a great tool for anybody who's doing product unveilings. You can also just broadcast stuff from your booth on the show floor, have like a little TV studio set up and maybe interview attendees or highlight some of your different company executives or salespeople in the booth. Interview them and spotlight them on your little webcast. You can do it either through your own website or you can put it up on YouTube. It's up to you. But again, it's another way to reach out and touch people who may not physically be at the show. Plus the fact that even if somebody is at your show, they might stumble across this information after the fact, or you can actually drive them to your website to watch this after the show is over. Now let's talk about some alternative trade show formats, because creating more interactive trade shows doesn't always mean it has to have an online element. Trade shows in all kinds of industries have been working to try to develop innovative formats that create energy on the show floor and also create more in-depth conversations between attendees and exhibitors. Now, one such strategy is known as a reverse trade show. I have to admit, I haven't participated in any of these, but it makes me feel a little questionable. Here's what the format is. The buyers are actually the ones who sit at the tables, and the vendors are the ones who move from one table to the next by appointment. It's pretty much a bare bones environment, no booth displays or anything like that. The people just sit at the tables and pretty much show each other portfolios of what they have to offer. Again, I haven't been to one of these kinds of shows. Maybe they work great, but it just doesn't sound like an ideal format for me as an exhibitor or especially as an attendee. Now, a variation on this has been done numerous times at our local MPI chapter here in Kansas City. We call it Marketplace, but a lot of people within the chapter often call it speed dating for exhibitors. Here's how it works. The exhibitors sit at a table. Each exhibitor has one round table. They can decorate it however they choose. And there's a group of attendees, or in this case for MPI, meeting planners, who move from one table to the next in set intervals, usually 5 to 7 minutes. And they just move from one table to the next all the way around the room. Now, I'll admit, in the beginning, I was pretty skeptical of this idea and didn't think it would go over very well, but it's been very popular. Now, one thing that we have not eliminated completely is still the exhibit booths. We may have more companies who've chosen to do the marketplace rather than a booth, but there are still some companies that do both. So again, it could be a great supplement to an existing trade show. For yet another twist on this concept, next week at MPI's Professional Education Conference in Houston, where the theme is Meet Different, a large part of the show floor will be set in conversation areas rather than traditional booths. So it'll be interesting to see which parts of the show floor are the busiest. I'll report back afterwards and let you know. Now, another approach doesn't involve actual booths, but rather designing a gathering place on the show floor that helps to bring attendees into the show area and keep them on the show floor longer. SIA Snow Sports Trade Show does this with an area they call the Yard. And basically, it's a community zone that hosts daily events, including games, a TV lounge, live entertainment, and there's also private meeting lounges that exhibitors can rent to meet one-on-one. They say that this represents their audience's interactive lifestyle, which if you think about snow sports, yes, lounges, high energy games, all those kinds of things, they're going to be great draws for their audience. So, Something like that could be a great addition to a trade show, and it can also be an area that has sponsorships available. And just a couple of final notes. Last time we talked about all the Web 2.0 tools out there, and I have another one for you. You may have heard of Squidoo, which was developed by Seth Godin, of Purple Cow fame. This one really rolls blogging, social bookmarking, and video sharing all into one. And I've created a Squidoo lens, as they call them, on trade show marketing. So again, in the show notes, you'll find a link to my page on Squidoo called Trade Show Marketing. And finally, a quick event announcement. I'll be presenting a couple of sessions at this year's exhibitor show in Las Vegas in March. One is part of the Authors Executive Series called Taking the Show on the Road, where we'll be planning a multi-city tour for a fictional company during this interactive planning session. You get to choose tour length, target cities, select venues, attract visitors, and measure results. So check that out. Again, there's a link in the show notes. And the second session is going to be really cool. It's an after-hours excursion called TSI, Trade Show Investigation. We'll be traveling up the Las Vegas Strip to gather evidence of design, including lighting and signage, multisensory elements, interactive marketing, attractions that engage and educate, and staff that reinforces your company message. Then we'll review evidence over dinner and present ideas that are applicable to trade show exhibiting. It's going to be a great time, so be sure and join us. Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues as long as it is shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the show notes. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights and our two-part series on Trade Shows 2.0. Until next time, I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening.